So ladies and gentlemen, welcome back to a brand new, somewhat mini news roundup video, and it still might be kind of long, but it's only surrounding so many subjects. We're going to get into quite a bit of leftover Superman stuff, new things popping up. We're going to get into some Lanterns stuff, which really intrigues me, and I can't wait to hear your guys' thoughts on that. But first of all, I didn't think I was going to have to make another bloody commentary on the Batman 2 misconception stuff, but over the weekend, well, you know, it's Easter stuff, you know, hanging around with the family and whatnot, well, I was getting pinged a lot of DMs on Instagram, Twitter, about, Boba, does this mean the Batman 2? Like, what is John Campea saying here? Does he know something about the Batman 2 being cancelled? And as usual here, again, I don't know the future. I don't have a crystal ball in terms of what could end up happening with the Batman 2, whether it's for better or for worse. However, when it comes to this is a situation in where people saw a clip, they didn't actually look at the full video, and as a result, they jumped to conclusions. So on John Campea's show, essentially, he read a viewer question that literally asks him, what's more likely, the Batman 2 gets cancelled or it gets folded into the DCU? And so his team, as well as John himself, is like, oh yeah, so what is more likely if I had to pick one out of the two? The Batman Pattinson going into the DCU or it getting cancelled? And they opted, I believe all of them, if I remember correctly, opted to say something like the Batman 2 would get cancelled over Pattinson ever joining the DCU. But that context was cut from the beginning of the clip and the end of the clip, so all you saw is, oh yeah, the Batman 2. And what makes it worse is you had John Campea throwing into the mix, like, into that hypothetical, hey, what's more likely if we had to choose one, that he's heard something behind the scenes about the Batman 2, and I don't know if I can say it. Oh, I don't know if I can say it. I've been told I can say it. And that, I agree, made it all sound worse. But what I'm assuming he meant with that being thrown into the mix is that he could have heard the behind-the-scenes thing, I'm assuming here. That could be going on with Matt Reeves. As I've said before, I know what that is, and maybe he's heard it as well. And he was contemplating on saying it. Now, I don't know if that is what he was going to say with regards to what he says here.
Man, I'm struggling with what I can say and what I can't. See, I got told something this week that they even said I could say it.
Now, if he was almost going to say it, I would completely disagree with that, because obviously that is not for anyone to divulge other than Matt Reeves on his own personal life. But again, I want to stress, that might not be what John was going to say anyway. He may have heard a whole different thing. I don't know, but I just assume it's something like that because clearly that seems to be the thing that's kind of getting around to journalists, scoopers, or, you know, YouTubers like myself. But I would absolutely not say that. But again, don't know what John was referring to there, but that being thrown into the mix made it worse. So all in all, just in case you are wondering about my thoughts on that, no, John Campea doesn't know anything or wasn't hinting that the Batman 2 was getting cancelled or whatever. He was just literally asked, what's more likely? And then they kind of had some fun with that. Now, again, you know my thoughts on this, guys. If we don't hear anything by July latest, then we should be getting an update around about that time as to whether the production date has been delayed to early 2026, which would be fine in the grand scheme of things because the October 2027 release date is more than long enough away that you could still film in early 2026, have a year's worth of post-production, and still make it out with time to spare. Or, you know, around July we could hear that maybe something bad has happened and they're not going to pursue. I don't know. But for now, it's all right. And if anything, this is, you know, take this with a grain of salt. It was being reported or like reposted by various, you know, pages that Dan Lemon has reportedly been added as production visual effects supervisor in the Batman 2. The visual effects supervisor for the Batman, the first movie as well. Now, this is via the sources, IMDb. Now, the thing about IMDb that drives me crazy is that people take it as gospel truth. Like, you know, you have some person being added, or like, I don't know, Barry Keoghan is going to be in Joker 2 or something, and people are like, oh my god, Bob, we've seen this. I'm like, well, so is Joaquin Phoenix going to morph into, you know, Barry Keoghan's, like, those universes connecting? So you see what I mean? That's why I'm like, oh god. No. However, IMDb can be a place where there is legitimacy. You've had Mark Strong for the Penguin series listed as Carmine Falcone for ages and ages and ages, where a lot of us, myself included, were like, I don't know, man. IMDb for it to be true. It was true. And it can be true quite a lot of the time because you have agencies, managers, talent people in their department somewhere getting their computer clickety-click and adding their client to the IMDb. Do you know what I mean? So Dan Lemon could have very well legitimately been added because on the silver, like the hypothetical hope here that he's heard that, yeah, like, we are going to be entering production, or sorry, pre-production at some point in the next few months. So, you know, it's getting to that point where you kind of tinker here and there and like, oh, I'm being added to the IMDb. Slowly, ever slowly but surely, things are leading up to what I've said, the latest June, July pre-production start date. But again, for now, that is like a thing I'm still hesitant about, but hopeful about. Don't let this give you a bunch of hope. It is just IMDb. But it would be, I would say, if this is true, a promising sign. If someone like the visual effects supervisor, Dan Lemon, got added to the IMDb and, you know, slowly but surely more people got added to the IMDb, that would mean and sound like to me behind the scenes that they are gearing up for pre-production come, I don't know, sometime July or something like that. Either way, moving on here to the Superman side of things. So we got a lot of stuff that I want to get into in today's video, some little tidbits. So starting off with James Gunn here, posting this behind the scenes look at just, I believe, that kind of romantic flight scene where there's a whole Lois or Chlois theme done by John Murphy, which I'm looking forward to hearing. And he says, when I cast Superman, I needed to cast Clark, I needed to cast Lois, but I also needed to cast that special on-screen chemistry between two actors that can't be explained. That's the thing Corenswet and Rachel Brosnahan brought to this movie together, and I can't wait for you to see it in theaters July 11th. Now, this is the thing that I always keep saying. I don't know if I'm going to like the movie in every facet, the writing, the third act, you know, how things go here, how things go there. I may very well have criticisms, but one thing I am very sure about that I will like out of this movie is the castings. You know, Anthony Carrigan's Metamorpho, that amazing look that we got at him that I went on about in my behind-the-scenes breakdown, which check it out if you haven't seen that video already. I get into a bit of a deep dive into all of that footage. But obviously, I've been a supporter of the casting of David Corenswet and Rachel Brosnahan ever since they were amongst the frontrunners for, you know, to play Lois and Clark. So I have a lot of faith in these castings. And I would admit that it's almost like blind faith, that no matter what I may think about this movie, and I'm hoping that it will be good, obviously, I do have a lot of faith in the chemistry that these two actors will have. Now, speaking of, we are getting a bunch of new promo stuff. We have a new Superman promo poster here, and I really, really love this pose. You know, the arms crossed. Corenswet looks really great there. Now, of course, one thing to come out of this is, oh my God, the creases! The creases! Not the creases! Now, I mean, I get it, by the way. I see those creases, and I think, yeah, I would prefer it to be like his other arm, his other bicep, where it's not so creased. So I am completely on board, and I've never not been on board with people where they say that maybe they could have found a material that wasn't thick to the part. Like, obviously the thickest part is where the kind of gauntlets are here, and we're going to get onto that in a separate up close look at the suit in a minute. But we've all identified that that's got quite a thick, almost like armored bit here. Some people even say that obviously it hides David Corenswet's muscle, you know, how much he put into it, like obviously isn't being as like highlighted as much. But I still think he looks very big in this suit. It's just that you don't have the wet shirt look that James Gunn spoke about. And that wet shirt look to comic book suits is something I've gone off of, you know, the kind of old Batman movies, Roman ab armor look, the undersuit muscle padding. You know, I actually wanted more of a, you know, suit like this. But I will say that maybe they could have found a slightly different material. Not necessarily one that's as thin as the Man of Steel suit, which still had muscle padding under it, but maybe something that wasn't so thick that it crumbled. But to me, even though I can see what people say there, it's not the be-all and end-all, oh my God, make it, break it, ass, trash, laugh my ass off, laughing emoji times 10, end of the world thing for me, you know? I still think, hey, there's a suit where I really dig the design, the Kingdom Come modernized symbol there, the lines have even grown on me. I've seen edits of this where people flatten it out here. They removed the lines completely. And look, fair enough if you actually prefer that, because I've seen quite a few people say, hey, this looks better, so much better. I'm like, no. But hey, feel free to disagree. But anyway, all that I meant to say here is you're probably seeing lots of promo stuff come out like this, and this will be happening more and more and more, and I think he looks really cool. And speaking of me thinking he looks really cool, we've got some more looks through other means that we're going to get to in this video, so stay tuned. Now, speaking of more looks, though, thanks to DCU Updates, who went on, I believe, a Warner Brothers studio tour on Superman Day. Well, they had the costumes from the new Superman there, and we managed to get some even more up-close images at the suit. Now, I'm probably showing them on screen. Again, shout out to DCU Updates for, being able to get stuff like this. Now, there's a couple of other tidbits that I found very fascinating with what he managed to capture here. And that is the Lois and Clark, well, mainly the Lois costume, but one thing I will say about the Clark suit to the Daily Planet, we always knew that he was wearing like an oversized suit, but my God, look how big that suit is. Like, obviously Corenswet being basically 6'4", like a huge guy, needs like a big costume, but the idea is that they even put a much bigger suit on him, a guy who's 6'4", to make it seem like, hey, he's not like the Man of Steel under there. Like, he's wearing very baggy clothing, a baggy suit. But anyway, DCU Update says here, I finally got a great look at Lois's necklace, and I wonder if that's a bullet that Superman saved her from. Just a theory. She wears it in every shot we've seen of her. And that is absolutely true. So when we get a close-up of this, I just find this attention to detail very interesting. It's the kind of thing where, are we going to get a reference to it in the movie, or aren't we? I don't know. But you can see, we'll save the bullet bit for last, but you can see like this kind of metal in the background. Now, that could be Sam Lane's, or maybe somebody further up in the family, like a grandfather, military service kind of thing. But it could be Sam Lane. I hope that Sam Lane's still around. He's just out there, but she's still wearing it because of her father. The rose, like flower necklace part, could probably be maybe something to do with her mother, maybe her sister, but maybe her mother, maybe somebody further up in the family, like a grandmother, I don't know. But you also see an impacted bullet. So, like, if you shoot a bullet, like, the bullet will just completely go flat, more or less. The idea is that what if this is a bullet that she was saved from with Superman's, like, help? So maybe he, like, came in, boom, bullets bounced off the Man of Steel, they landed on the floor, and she picked one up and maybe put it on her necklace. I don't know. I guess that's the theory, but I do really like that idea. So to take a break from Superman for just a second, because don't worry, we're getting back into it with even more looks, really cool looks. I wanted to take a break with Lanterns, because out of nowhere, and this is a little tidbit, but it's still so cool to me, especially if you're into the Lanterns hype train. We have the stunt coordinator, Justin Reiner, giving a sneak peek at how Howard and John take flight in Lanterns. And ladies and gentlemen, as you could probably tell, future Boba here, the video got taken down. Maybe because it wasn't supposed to really be up, but what I'm going to do is I'm still going to leave the minute or two of me talking about it in this video, even though I can't show the footage, just because it still gives my impression on that whole stunt scene thing of what we could be seeing in Lanterns and how the rings are used and stuff like that. So I hope you guys understand. Obviously, don't want copyright issues on this channel, and I assume they took it down again because you're probably not even meant to give that away, right, when they're filming. It could still give things away. Maybe you've already seen it. If you haven't, here's my thoughts on it. Now, the really cool thing about this little kind of stunt reel that they've uploaded is that it does give away what kind of they're planning to do with how they take off with the rings. And it's something that some of you may be like, what's so cool about this? It's not like they're in the suits. These are just stunt doubles, not in the suit, taking off. But it shows you, because I think a lot of people have this like trepidation, this hesitancy with Lanterns being described the way it is. And don't get me wrong, I think it will be a very grounded, true detective-inspired show. That's something we absolutely know. But we can't forget that it is, no matter what, in the same universe as a Krypto the Flying frickin' Superdog, and they are wearing lantern rings. So, with those worries came the idea, and there may be some truth in this concern as well. What if they don't wear their suits a bunch? I've added some theories into that, being like, maybe you're right, because, if you're investigating a murder in a town with these community secrets in the American heartland that leads to this, uncovering of an ancient horror, are you really going to profess and, walk around like, hey, I'm a Green Lantern, everybody, tell me what you know? You might be a little bit more, undercover than that, but, you suit up when the time comes. Now, speaking of when the time comes, well, they're wearing lantern rings, and the idea of these shots is to kind of highlight how they might take off when they're shooting on the day. And I love how the camera goes in, focuses on the hand with the ring, and then the takeoff happens in that one shot, or they run into it and they glide up a bit. There's these different takes where he kind of walks into it and then the hand goes up like that. And you can almost imagine in episode, when they actually film this properly, the little CGI green glow around the ring or something. It's little nugget, this is what I would describe as the perfect nugget for a fan looking forward to something in development like myself. I love seeing this, or even a little kind of landing there as well with the ring, and they just casually walk. I don't know how often we would see this in the show, but at the end of the day, they're going to be wearing lantern rings, so, when shit goes down, they're going to have to fly up like this. And now I'm thinking, okay, so how much heavy CGI or lantern constructs could we see? What are the, I'm dying to see what the suits look like and how they're formulated from the freaking ring. But either way, let me know what you think about the way they seem to be approaching with the stunt coordinator here, how Jon Stewart and Hal Jordan will be taking off with their lantern rings. Okay, so now back to Superman. We have some more, kind of kids' books, which is kind of giving away new things, which is why I'm kind of covering it here. Plus, it's also quite interesting looks that will maybe expand theory. So, we have the Superman, the official activity book, which we may do a bit of an activity video here on the channel if you give 1,000 likes to this video. Joking, but maybe I'm not joking, that'd be pretty funny. But no, really, the cool thing about this book is that even though it's full of puzzles, posters, stickers, and more fun full color activity in the book, it gives you a good look at some of the artwork for some of the characters. But for some reason, we have a good look at Ultraman here, and he's got a bit of a purple hue to him. I mean, I'm pretty damn sure. I mean, I am colorblind, so subtle shade changes for me is really difficult to see. But I'm pretty sure the suit looks pretty black in all the trailers and teasers and photos we've seen, and set photos and whatnot. So I don't know if there's a bit of a purple hue. This is now sparking up the ideas of what if it's not Ultraman? What if it's still secretly Parasite under there? Again, never say never, guys. I don't know. If the clone theory and all of that good stuff is true, absolutely no idea. I think that's just the most popular one, especially with the very Ultraman-looking you. And yes, I know some people say, Ulysses! Okay, I acknowledge you, all right? But we don't know. But we also have the Superman Friends and Foes book, which shows a very good look at who we recently went over in the behind-the-scenes little reel that they released, at the Hammer of Boravia. And in my video, I was like, right, I really do believe in the theory a lot more now, that what if Lex is the Hammer of Boravia? And it's important to remember, that's what the press have called him, the Hammer of Boravia. I don't think that's a self-professed title. I think that's just, in that newspaper it said, Hammer of Boravia causes havoc downtown. But now it's you're now seeing this artwork, and it's wait, I don't know. What if it is just the Hammer of Boravia? And because Superman goes over there, causes some geopolitical tensions, I'm sure it still has something to do with Lex Luthor wanting to stir the pot, basically, shit stir, and make things worse for Superman. He enlists the Hammer of Boravia to go after Superman and as a bit of a response or something like that. I don't know. Or you could still go with the theory that Lex gets in this suit, so basically his kind of war suit, right, and still shit stirs, but it's important to remember maybe people don't know about him, maybe until later on in the movie. It's hard to know, because again, when you see that suit walking out of what people are thinking is a Zeta tube, or Gunn's version of a Zeta tube, a boom tube, and I completely agree with that theory, by the way. This does seem like a device that is used to transport people around, or someone around. Absolutely. So, for lack of a better word for now, Zeta tube, it's okay, I really wouldn't be surprised if Lex, through his attempts to bring down Superman with the kaiju or whatever he gets out the fortress to this, that, and the other. Eventually, he gets in that. We're going to have to wait and see. But also, I wonder if that star is like a symbol or anything related to Boravia. I don't know. It kind of, if anything, reminds me of the Legion of Superheroes kind of logo, the ring there with the little kind of way the silver lines go across as well as the little star symbol. But I don't think that's something from the future coming back to the past, Legion style. I just think that's a coincidence. Now, what I will say is this book is releasing June 3rd. So over a month before the movie comes out, Superman Friends and Foes. And considering it's going to have details about Superman's friends, Hawkgirl as seen there, but also his foes, it makes me wonder if spoilers could start coming out because Ultraman could be in there. And they might give details about that character. And I know some of you might be like, but would they do that really before the movie comes out? Well, believe it or not, stuff like that does actually tend to happen. I'm not saying it will, but maybe a detail or two extra of what probably shouldn't be out before the movie comes out could actually come out before the movie comes out. So we're going to have to wait and see. But do you have any doubt now after seeing this artwork of the Hammer of Boravia that this is actually Lex in there? I would say now I'm kind of 50-50. I can see Lex getting in the suit, as I said, and nobody knows it's him, and he's given this name, or this suit is given this name out there, but really it's Lex in there. Or do you think it's actually somebody Lex has hired to be the Hammer of Boravia and go out there to Boravia and maybe try and beat up Superman or like cause this havoc in downtown Metropolis as a response to Superman's activity in Boravia? But then we have to go back to the Welcome to Metropolis, the prequel junior novel that we covered a couple of videos ago, because now we have a new image, and it gives us a really cool new pose of David Corenswet as Superman. Beforehand, I read out the synopsis of the book, but we didn't have this front cover, but now we have the front cover, and I have to say, I really, really love this pose. But what's also interesting about this, guys, to me, is it kind of doubles down on what I was saying before, and how even though this is a prequel novel to Clark Kent and Gunn's movie, and how it gets into how he first arrived in Metropolis, this, that, and the other, I wouldn't be surprised if it's not proper canon, if that makes sense. Because just like the Batman prequel novel, it says now on the front cover, and I called it in my last video, an official novel inspired by the film. It's inspired. Now, I know people disagree with me here with the Batman one, but if Gunn didn't write this himself, the guy who made the Superman script, the Superman movie, I struggle to believe, especially with the things that we could come to. I feel like if you ask James Gunn, hey, is every little last thing, or if you ask Matt Reeves, is every last thing that happened in that Batman prequel novel where Riddler basically came across Bruce and things like that years before they met as Batman and the Riddler, is everything canon? He might be like, well, I mean, I wouldn't say not, everything is not canon. There's a few ideas that maybe I approve of, but it's that kind of thing where it's inspired by it. It's a prequel junior novel inspired by the film. So, here's like a plausible story of Clark getting into Metropolis for the first time. But let me know if you would like a breakdown on the channel of this, because it comes out June before the movie, and we can entertain the canon and potential non-canon aspects of it, or like what I deem myself to like be how likely is it canon and stuff. And then of course on Superman Day we got a bunch, and I mean a bunch of toys revealed. Now shout out to DCU Brief here, because they did a thread of essentially most of the toys that released. So of course we've got the Superman Funko Pops, which look pretty cool. I don't know if there's going to be any extra ones of Ultraman and the Engineer and stuff, but I don't know if, they're keeping them hidden for now. We've also got like Fortress of Solitude, like superpowers, McFarlane figures, and it looks so newbie at the same time, with Superman sat down in his chair and you have the little number 4 Fortress robot. Just, I don't know. Then you get into some of the multi-figures, the 10-inch figures, the 7-inch figures. Metamorpho looks pretty cool. Like, this gives you a good idea of the bottom half. And then we have the kaiju toys, which I'm sure many people have seen by now. There's even ones where like goo, like his belly like opens and goo just comes out after Superman apparently punches him. Now I know toys take the liberty of just creating stuff like that, so I'm not saying that will happen in the movie, because if Superman punched the kaiju and like his belly opens and goo, like, does that not kill the kaiju? I don't think Superman would do that. Then we have Lex, Mr. Terrific. We have bloody Uno Superman cards, Daily Planet mugs and merch, crypto helicopter things, which I imagine won't last very long. As soon as the blades get bent on these things, they're useless. A Fortress of Solitude lamp, a bloody crypto lamp. You get the idea. A lot of Superman merch is coming out, and if anything, what I'm looking forward to is the more, you know, hyper-realistic statues that come out. I'm sure some of you have seen, like, the Robert Pattinson, the Batman, high-detailed statues that are just insanely expensive, but insanely detailed, that if you took a photo of it up close, it literally looks like Pattinson in the suit, and it's just incredible. So it would be really cool to see a David Corenswet Superman version of that. I have no doubt that will be coming out from some of those higher-end premium statue making companies. But for now, guys, unless you've seen Future Boba, which I always now add in because you never know, that is everything I'm going to get into in this news roundup video. So as usual, let me know your thoughts on everything we had to discuss today. If you got this far in the video, would greatly appreciate a like on it just to show your support for the channel. Consider subscribing for anything brand new DCU. I hope you have a lovely rest of your day, and I'll see you fellow Kryptonians, Lanterns, and I don't know what else in the next video. Goodbye.